down here on level 1?
So low he could parachute out of a snake's asshole.
Hey guys, this is going to be a shorter video, hopefully, about some of my thoughts about recent DSP nonsense. I'm going to be talking about some stuff that recently came up during Phil's last React Day on Sunday. The three topics will be first from DSP Reacts, a clip where Phil talks about tabletop model collecting. The second will be about kind of a mini review of DSP throwing out his back, perhaps more of a microcosm of the weirdness that is the self-restreaming Phil currently does. And then some final thoughts about the nightmare that's going to be DSPolitics based on him reacting to philosophy videos on DSP Reacts. Sorry if this gets a little rambly at points. I just kind of kept typing once I started the script. So the first topic is Phil's utterly strange reaction to a video about some guy showing off his Warhammer Fantasy collection and another guy showing off his Warhammer 40k collection. The first video was a brief introduction into some of the rules of the old game, told in the framework of the host explaining how he plans to play his Vampire Count's army against his friend's Chaos Demon's army.
But none of that changes the fact that I want to win. And that won't be easy. Let me explain to you why. Trent is bringing demons.
Because Trent is a cheater.
Now, to understand the problem, you need to understand a few things about Warhammer Fantasy.
The first weird thing from Phil was to ask if Dungeons & Dragons stole their idea from Warhammer Fantasy.
You know what I was wondering in my head here? I wonder what truly came first. Like, we know that D&D has elements that were based on Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, correct? When did Warhammer start?
I hate to steal something from Fred Fucks, but a Google search, Phil. A Google search. You can look it up online, and D&D predates Warhammer Fantasy by nearly a decade. Although it's fucking weird to claim, I think I know what Phil is trying to do here. He's trying to downplay D&D because he fucking hates streaming Baldur's Gate 3. He's constantly complaining that he doesn't know what's going on in Baldur's Gate 3 because he doesn't know the story of D&D. Which is fucking brain dead, because there's hundreds of settings in D&D. D&D is just a rule set for how to play the game. There's hundreds of adventure modules, and of course you could always just use your fucking imagination and make up anything you fucking want. But I think that Phil was trying to provide even more of an excuse as to why he couldn't understand Baldur's Gate 3. It's not because he's a fucking alien with a dent in his head. No. Phil can't understand what's happening in BG3 because he never played the game it was based on, Dungeons & Dragons. And he never played the game that was based on, Warhammer Fantasy. So how could Phil ever hope to understand Baldur's Gate 3? Bottom line, it's not Phil's fault. And that wasn't even the craziest thing he said. Phil then started commenting on model collecting. He actually asked why you would have a collection of things that other people could buy. He actually asked why someone would buy a miniature collection if all of the models were not limited editions.
Jesus. So wait, I will ask this question too. What's the big deal about having one of these collections? Because couldn't anyone technically just do this if they had a lot of money? Like, I don't understand. Like, oh, look at his big collection. Okay, big deal, but you could buy it too, right?
Even though you can sculpt the models however you want, paint them however you want, such that no two collections are actually exactly the same, somehow your collection is only meaningful if there's a scarcity of the models? What? How does Phil totally fail to understand that you can collect things that are important to yourself and are not just rare items? He's always had such a weird way of thinking about collecting things.
So it kind of like, okay, let me put it this way. If you have a comic book collection of rare comic books, well, it's because they're rare. They're old. You can't get them anymore. They're not printed anymore. Isn't it true that you could just buy these now? Or are they all limited edition and then you can't get them anymore later?
The Wolverine toy might be the best example. Phil, as a child, only wanted a Wolverine toy because it was a limited run. When his parents bought it a year later, Phil wasn't interested because it was a more popular production run of the toy. A fucking toy action figure. I don't know why a 10-year-old kid would care about the resale value of a cheap action figure. Then, of course, there's one of the big elephants in the room, which was Phil's own statue collection that got so large it forced him to move out of the Connecticut condo. Phil spent tens of thousands, maybe even $100,000 on collectible statues. The curious thing to me is when he made all of those videos showing off his collection when he was in the Washington condo so that he could auction them off, Phil always made sure to show off that every single one was a limited edition. He would show off the stamp that said something like item 52 of 250. So I guess to Phil, the only reason he bought all those statues back in the day was because they were rare, limited editions. Maybe that explains why he had so much random stuff, half of which was stuff he was never really interested in. Like, why did Phil spend $1,000 on a heavy from Team Fortress 2 when he never played the game? Maybe Phil is just that much of a fucking mark for these scummy sales tactics. The reason normal people collect tabletop miniatures is because they mean something to the person collecting them. You choose the models you like, you make the models, you paint the models, you make them yours. That's the reason you collect them, other than just playing the game. But fucking bizarro world Phil over here only understands collecting if someone else tells him it's rare. If his Sagat statue didn't say that there were only 350 of them ever made, would he have bought it? Not to get on a Steve of the 12-hour video tangent right now, but how does a guy that constantly talks about how meaningful his YouTube content is, only able to frame it ever in terms of other people telling him it's meaningful? How does Phil have no internal locus of control for the meaning of his own life? Not sure if that's the right way to really phrase that. How can someone have no will of his own? Maybe that's why we've never really gotten a satisfactory answer to what the word meaningful actually means from Phil. Because it doesn't mean anything to him. It's entirely defined by outside forces. Maybe that's why he's such a consumer mark. The cheap sticker on the cardboard box tells Phil it's a limited edition, and Phil gladly pays $1,000 for a statue of a character in a game he never played.
I don't know. Like, I don't really understand it. I don't understand the idea of, look at my collection, when it's like, yeah, but anyone could just buy that, so it's not really that big of a deal. There's no scarcity to it, so why does it matter, right?
It's just an absolute mindfuck that a guy that uses the word meaningful nearly every day to describe his own job can't understand why a person would collect things he personally created unless some random marketer slapped a limited edition sticker on the side of the collection. How can someone not value his own work, or even understand another person that values his own work? That's part of the reason people collect tabletop miniatures. You make it your own. How can Phil not understand this? I don't know if I'll ever understand. Then, of course, there was the rant about how unfair it would be if someone else could just spend more money than you and buy the better models to have an advantage.
And if that's the case, because it's supposed to be a competitive game, how is that fair that someone bought an older unit that you can't buy anymore and now they can't use that in combat, right? Limited runs? Well, then again, if it's limited runs, then how is it fair if someone who jumped onto Warhammer before you bought all this cool limited run stuff and now you can't buy it because it's limited run? So now you have worse units because you didn't buy it earlier? That's what I don't really understand. If it's competitive in nature, how is it based on money?
If it's competitive in nature, how is it based on money?
That's what I don't get. You know what I mean? Like, then it's really not truly competitive. It's kind of like who threw their money around earlier and has the broken stuff, right? But maybe I'm wrong. I don't understand it, so.
I don't think I need to explain the irony of that one. There's a 6-digit WWE Champions account laughing in the corner. The second thing I wanted to mention was kind of a mini review of DSP Throws Out His Back. This isn't really going to be a full review, so if you want to watch something about the awful visual quality or the straight up stolen content on that channel, you should look at the streams Ann Leet did about that stuff. I'm going to be talking about these terrible self-restreams Phil is doing of his old playthroughs. I think the worst part so far is Phil can't decide if he's doing a director commentary style stream or whether he's actually redoing the commentary for the videos. Firstly, he's worried about spoilers for the playthroughs. Spoilers for videos that have been on YouTube for a decade, about games that have been released for a decade. You would think no one would be worried about spoilers. In fact, you would think spoilers would actually make the streams better, because Phil could comment about how his past self missed these important clues, or mention the way characters will act about later events. But in Phil's alien genius, he basically wants to make a blind react to his old content, which makes no fucking sense. He keeps bringing up the big twist about the story of Heavy Rain, and I don't know why he just doesn't say it. Who is this stream for? People who have been following Phil for over a decade and want to relive the old days, but they also somehow don't remember anything that happened in the playthrough? What? It's this thing Phil does where he tries to double or triple dip his content. Normally that just means charging his fans for memberships for 3 different channels, for the same amount of content he could do on just one channel. But in this case, it's specifically about Phil trying to cater his content to 3 different audiences at the same time. He wants to appease the old fans that remember the playthroughs, which is why he's basically doing this stuff in the first place. He wants to appease his current fans, is why he does all of this shout-out nonsense and the "I've changed" routine. And he also wants to appease these mythical new viewers, which is why he's trying to avoid spoilers and doesn't talk about things that have already happened in the past. How does Phil phrase it? You can please some of the people all the time. You can please all of the people some of the time. You can't please all of the people all of the time. A minor tangent. If you actually want to give Phil advice, he needs to decide if he's a streamer or a video maker. He tries to keep his feet in both ponds at once, and it kind of ruins his content. He does this stupid YouTube intro to all of his videos, which involves the fakest fucking commentary he can do for the first 10 or so minutes of each hour of content. He then reverts to streamer mode, constantly pausing the game to do shoutouts and respond to people in chat, only then to do a 5-minute YouTube exit segment at the end of the hour. For the stream audience, it creates this weird part of the stream where every hour there's this weird, nearly 30-minute segment where Phil is talking to the people watching, but he's actually talking to the people that aren't there, creating this disconnect with the viewers. And then, of course, there's the 10-minute bathroom break in between each hour. And then for the actual YouTube videos, the middle portions of the videos, Phil is responding to people in chats and donations, which the YouTube viewer can't see because Phil no longer has pop-ups, and he doesn't put stream chat in the videos. So only half his content is aimed at each audience, but each audience gets 100% of the content. He either needs to leave all the stream interactions out of the YouTube videos, so they don't tarnish the YouTube videos, or he needs to just be a streamer and stop wasting all his time with these worthless videos. Phil constantly complains about it. He doesn't have enough time to do anything because he has to manage his uploads, name the uploads, and yada yada yada. Now, if the real reason he does all of this nonsense is just to avoid spending time with his wife with the excuse that he's doing work for the business, fair enough. But otherwise, he needs to decide if he's a streamer or a video maker. If he's a streamer, do what all the other streamers do. Just leave the raw stream as a VOD, make the chat available, so when people watch it later, they can know what the fuck Phil is talking about. When he says, a lot of people in chat are saying da-da-da-da-da. Or he needs to become a video maker and just stop responding to people in chat while recording his YouTube videos and just respond to all the donations and stuff between YouTube videos. Because those are different audiences that want different things. People who watch live streams want live streams. People who watch YouTube videos want YouTube videos. Instead, Phil gives his live audience pre-canned YouTube intros and gives his video audience live chat interaction. Although I know it's totally pointless to give this guy any advice at all. It's clear by now the suggestion box only exists for Phil to tell his fans they're a bunch of fucking idiots and Phil doesn't need to improve. Anyway, back to DSP Throws It Back. There's the absolute reality-shattering, time-traveling snorts and goat laughs. Hopefully I find a few examples, but it's an absolute mindfuck to hear the current DSP goat laugh at the exact same time past DSP goat laughs at the exact same thing happening on screen.
Oh, here we go.
I like to play with balls. What is this?
Get ready.
Do. Failure. Mr. Mars found. He's
Yep.
forgetting his first name. Where's the dresser?
There it is.
Is this it right here? And now he gets arrested for indecent exposure. The end.
Totally undermining the argument that he's a changed man. Hearing this guy goat laugh the exact same way at the exact same thing a decade apart is just another one of the unbelievable things about DSP. Despite hearing it happen, it still seems impossible to me that someone could be so resistant to change that a decade could not change him 1 inch. It's like seeing some sort of quantum paradox with your own eyes and not being able to understand. And then there's the total ridiculousness that is the whole concept of the channel. Phil is now a changed man that doesn't do any of the offensive content he used to do in the past, because he was trying to entertain a teenage audience. But now he's rewatching all of this content he doesn't want to make for his current audience. So if he's such a changed man that no longer wants to make offensive content, why is he dedicating 1 day a week to making content about it? If his old commentary is directed at entertaining an immature audience of teenagers, why would his current audience, which he claims is a bunch of mature adults, be interested in this old stuff? Of course, it's because the whole point is to triple dip these idiot pay pics of his and somehow do even less work. I also want to know about these supposed editors Phil has for this channel. The way Phil describes it, these editors are doing 90% of the work so Phil can collect $1 per day in ad revenue, and they don't even get paid in exposure.
For the record, I just banned someone because it's none of their business and they're basically trying to get a troll reaction out of me. But of course, my trolls ask things like, well, are you paying your editors to do this? No, what I do is I kidnapped people and I put them in my closet and I only let them out to edit videos. So they choose to edit for me for free because that's the only freedom they have. Then they go back in the closet and I lock them up again. I mean, it's just the stupidest question you could be asking. It's none of your business what my arrangements are with people who are editing for me. I don't have to tell you how much I pay them, how I pay them. It's none of your business at all. Just asking the question is offensive, and that's why you just received a nice ban. So there you go.
Supposedly what happens is Phil uploads his old playthroughs from his old external hard drives to private or unlisted videos on YouTube. The editors download that video, put the video into some sort of AI upscale program, and then for some reason, Phil gave these guys access to Phil's YouTube account. So they upload the new video straight to Phil's channel. They also set the premiere. They also create and upload straight to Phil's channel all the thumbnails for the videos, and they even put up temporary titles. Hell, he's even got these idiots uploading emotes to his main channel while Phil's online. This is Phil we're talking about. How the fuck did he trust anyone with access to his channels? He's the guy that says he isn't paranoid, he just expects everyone to stab him in the back. Is he really this lazy? He knows how many people have betrayed him in the past. All it takes is one of these editors to turn on Phil, like almost every single person that's ever done free work for him has, and upload a porn video or something and get his channel terminated. All of that risk for $1 a day in ad revenue? Something about this isn't adding up. And then, of course, there's the absolute mind-shattering parts where Phil refers to his past self in the third person. I don't even know how these are possible.
Her name is Emily.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Wow.
What's up, Diane?
What's up, Diane? You immediately forgets the name.
What's up, Diane? You immediately forgets the name.
He lines up his shot, right? He holds it up. And now what do they want me to do here? Up.
Oh!
And it's a fucking rim
He
job.
sucks.
He sucks.
So in conclusion about DSP Throws It Back, so far it might be the worst content he's making at the moment. Even if we discount the straight up stolen content he's putting on the channel, these streams are some of the worst I've ever seen from Phil. I've never seen someone so nervous watching himself. He spends half the time justifying why he did all those bad things and he's now a changed man, but then spends the other half of the stream laughing like a hyena at himself. I can't stand watching more than 10 minutes at a time without suffering mental damage. It's absolute fucking trash. And finally, DSPolitics. The inevitability of it. I think I agree with Meerkat now that we really don't want DSPolitics, but I think it's for a slightly different reason. Meerkat said he doesn't want Phil to engage in this controversial stuff because he's worried of the knock-on effect it might have on the detractor community, which I think is a very good point. But the main reason I don't want DSPolitics is because this dude is the most basic bitch I've ever heard when he talks about philosophical points, especially from someone that supposedly graduated from college. When I occasionally watch some of the DSP React streams, I have to turn it off when Phil watches some of these philosophy videos, religious videos, or he just randomly starts making out-of-this-world political takes. Like when he watched that video about rush hour at an Indian train station. The pure ignorance of Phil saying, "Ooh, that's dangerous." And, "Why don't they just build more trains?" drove me up a fucking wall. And that video about reality tunnels. Phil's takeaway from that video, "Why do we call it an Xbox controller? Isn't that weird? We could call it anything we want." Anyway, on to the next video. I absolutely refuse to watch Phil react to any of those street religious debate videos. Just no. The guy that both simultaneously says religion doesn't make sense and we don't have to listen to it, while also constantly comparing himself to biblical characters, or justifying he can't do charity because his Catholic upbringing taught him that charity was selfish, or that naive as fuck take that all religions are exactly the same so everyone should just get along. This guy had no friends in college. If you said that basic bitch stuff to people in college, you would have been slapped silly for wasting everyone's oxygen with that crap. So I think I've turned on the DSPolitics thing. I used to think it would be funny to listen to Phil talk about how amazing the fence post feels up his ass. But now I realize it would just drive me crazy. Phil is somehow a blue-pilled contrarian. I don't even know how that's possible. He's a contrarian, and yet his understanding of philosophy couldn't pass an introduction to philosophy class taught at a community college. Maybe that's just what happens to narcissists that lock themselves up in a 2-story condo in a gated community and their only interaction is with delivery drivers. At this point, please no.
I ask God respectively to blow the planet up immediately. Seriously, I mean, I want God to blow it up now instead of doing this, okay?
If Phil could live another 100 years, I still don't think he'd have enough understanding about the world to be allowed to voice his opinion on philosophy. So in conclusion, it's utterly strange that a guy that uses the word meaningful to describe his own content doesn't understand the idea of an individual placing personal meaning on something other than rarity, or an outsider determining what meaningful is. And in most cases, it's specifically a financial meaning, such as scarcity or limited edition or uniqueness. Phil's restreams of himself are a mental attack on the fabric of reality. Phil is somehow creating a wormhole through space-time because he's literally the same person, making the same sounds in reaction to the thing happening on screen, despite it being separated by 10 years. And finally, I've turned on DSPolitics. I don't need to hear basic bitch philosophy from someone that's never had a friend. I guess I should thank Phil for this. I tried watching some of his React Day bullshit, and I hated it so much I had to make another video